I'm currently on a cruise and I'm staying in a quirky ocean view cabin on an old cruise ship. It's a room I've been very excited to stay in, but I was a little bit nervous to book it. When I booked this cruise, all I knew really was that I wanted a window, but what I didn't realise at the time was that this ship has 6 different grades of ocean view cabin, all ranging in price. I usually just go for the cheapest room, which on this ship has these tiny little porthole windows, but when I saw what was called a superior cabin, I was curious. The bigger window definitely looked like a benefit, but it was an extra £250 compared to booking the standard ocean view room, and that did seem like a lot. That's over 320 US dollars. I was taking my dad on this trip, so I thought the extra space might be a nice treat for both of us. I was also really excited to see that it said bath or shower on the description, because I love a bath and it is a very rare treat on a cruise. I was nervous though, it was a lot of extra money to spend and this cruise was already pretty expensive. I didn't know if we would really make the most out of the room, and I didn't know if a superior cabin on this cruise might just be like a regular cabin on a more modern cruise ship. I hoped that it wouldn't feel run down at all and that I wouldn't regret my choice to upgrade. Usually when I cruise, I let the cruise line assign the room to me to save a little bit of money, but this time I didn't. Fred Olsen have what is called a freedom fare, and as well as letting you pick your own cabin location, it also came with some other perks that I wanted. By paying extra, I knew that I'd be able to pick my own room and most importantly, pick one with a bath. I went straight to the deck plans to work out which rooms had one. The cabins that did have a bath all had this symbol next to them, so that was pretty easy. I picked cabin 2659, which was available, and it was towards the back of deck 2. The website did mention how there may be a restricted view from this cabin from May onwards. I thought that was a bit strange, but it wasn't on our cruise. When we boarded the ship, I could see the standard porthole windows, which belong to the ocean view cabins on the lower decks, and then I could see the superior cabins just above them. Being so low down, it did not take me very long to walk to my room. The corridors were colourful, the carpets were swirly, the wood on the doors is undeniably 90s, but it all felt very welcoming and as though it had been looked after. I was so excited to have a big picture window, and the reality did not disappoint when we walked into the cabin. The whole room felt so big and bright and spacious. The window was massive and I liked all of the green colours around, particularly on the beds. The carpet I thought was cute too, and I don't know that you would know the ship's age just from looking at this design. She was built in 1997. The cabins do look pretty similar to how they were when the ship was owned by Holland America, but it is pretty hard to find past reviews of this ship because Holland America have called multiple ships Rotterdam. It's usually the smaller things like the plug sockets, the air conditioning and the toilets that make a cabin feel old to me, but only time would tell how those would be. Initial impressions were very good though. There was a huge sofa, plenty of floor space, 2 beds and a desk under the mirror. Closer to the door was our storage and the bathroom was in the corner. The cabin itself is around 19 square meters, which is much bigger than the 15 square meters, which is pretty standard for cruise ship cabins. It's fairly common for inside and ocean view cabins to be around 15 and the balcony cabins to be closer to 20. So on this ship, the ocean view cabins were as big as the balcony cabins on other ships. The extra space meant that we could have a really big sofa here where most cabins just have a small chair. This is actually a sofa bed and the cabin does hold 3 people. I have slept on cruise ship sofa beds many times and I'm sure that this one would be fine too. The cabin steward is the person who comes in and they make up and make down any extra beds. We boarded the cruise at 5:30 p.m, so after watching the safety video on the TV and checking in at our muster station, we headed straight to dinner. When we came back, our suitcases were waiting for us in the cabin, which is always such a relief. We last saw those when we dropped them off in the terminal. We were on this cruise for 5 days, so we didn't have a massive amount to unpack, but we both found that there was more storage than we would ever need. Over by the door, there were 3 wardrobes, which were a mix of hanging and shelves. We spread our stuff across them, but honestly, we would have been fine with half the storage space. In the wardrobe closest to the beds, there was a big safe and a fridge that was empty. In the second wardrobe were the pool towels, which we did use later in the cruise. Some cabins like this do hold 4 people though, so I imagine it would be a bit more of a tight squeeze if you were sharing this room with 3 others. I have shared inside cabins, ocean view cabins and balcony cabins with 3 other people before. It is fine for a short time, but you do have to be very organised about where you keep your stuff. We had no such concerns in this cabin though, and I particularly liked the bedside tables. It was in here that I would keep my bedtime chocolates. On a cruise, they either clean your room once or twice a day, and on Fred Olsen, they do it twice a day. To let your cabin steward know if you want your room cleaned or if you don't want to be disturbed, you just place one of these on the door handle. I have had my do not disturb sign go missing in the night on a cruise before, so I understand why modern cruise ships are moving to the buttons and the lights instead of these. It worked perfectly on our cruise though. The cabin definitely didn't have high-tech mod cons, but I would much prefer a room that was clean and spacious like this, rather than one that is dirty or badly laid out, but has lots of tech involved. The priorities did seem to be right in this cabin, and they prioritized chocolate. Whenever they tidy your room at night, they leave you a chocolate on the pillow. It is a very traditional cruise ship thing to do, but most cruise lines have stopped doing it. The only time I didn't love it was when I decided to eat mine in the middle of the night. I woke up and I ate my chocolate in the dark. To my disgust, it was coffee flavored, but I had no idea because it was dark. I instantly spat it back out, and I thought to myself, this is my punishment for eating chocolate in the middle of the night. Sadly, there weren't any plug sockets or USBs over by the bed, but that is a common thing on ships of this age, and it wasn't a problem. It just meant that I had to get out of bed to turn my alarm off in the morning, which generally isn't a bad thing. The cabin felt as though it had been really well looked after. There were a few little scuffs around, but apart from that, nothing that really made the room feel old. It is a lot of work to retrofit things like plug sockets, so many older cruise ships just don't. We had plenty over by the desk though. There was one upside down UK socket, one US socket, and one European socket. There were also 2 USBs here, but we never needed to use those. There was also another socket which was up really high, which might seem like an odd place for it, but this is where the TV used to be before they mounted that on the wall. The art around the room definitely is more traditional than the abstract stuff that you often find on modern cruise ships. I much prefer that personally, and I would rather look at a nice painting than an abstract brown blob that has orange stripes on it and green dots. After unpacking and having a quick shower, I decided to head to bed. I was looking forward to having a bath, but I figured I would save that one for tomorrow when I would really appreciate it. My bed was so comfortable and I slept really well. I'm happy to say that neither me or my dad ever hit these light switches with our heads, which is always something I worry about when the buttons are so close to the pillows. I do love being able to get into bed and then turn the lights off though. Each night we would find the daily schedule left in our room, so that would usually be the last thing I would read before I went to bed. To me, it feels like being a kid and circling things that you want in a catalogue. I don't normally circle the events that I want to go to, but I do keep a mental note. Waking up with the daylight was such a lovely treat. I don't mind cruising in inside cabins at all, and I have done more than any other cabin type, but knowing for sure what time of day it is when you wake up because of the window is something that I'll never take for granted. I was on a mystery cruise, meaning that we didn't know the itinerary until we arrived in port, so having a window where we could see where we were was extra important. If we were in an inside cabin, we really would have had no idea where we were until we were docked, until we went outside, or perhaps we looked it up on the cruise globe. We could have had a view, of course, from the little cheaper ocean view windows, but this one was much better. We were still sailing when I woke up and the seas were beautifully calm. I put my Captain Hudson and my first mate Rolo on the window to keep watch, and they sat on the tissue box. I was hoping that at some point I would be able to see them when I got off the ship from land, but we always docked on the other side. Just typical. We have raised another $19,000 for charity through sales of First Mate Rolo, and I can never thank you enough. It is life-changing, it is life-saving, and the next version, along with a matching Captain Hudson, will be available very soon. I have the samples right here, so please make sure I have your email address and you're on the wait list so that you don't miss out. Another thing I loved about waking up in this cabin was that there was a kettle. There was the cutest little bowl for used tea bags too, and the mugs were a really good size. I usually drink peppermint tea, so I bought the tea bags back from the buffet each day, and it was such a good way to start the morning. When heading out for the day, we would bring the small ship guide with us, and this information is also available in the app. I'd usually keep this and other little bits and bobs in the top drawer in the desk. There were 3 huge drawers here, and we didn't even need to use them all. I did forget my tripod though, and I had to be a little bit creative. Luckily for me, a tea bag box, which was on top of a kettle, which was on top of a table, worked worked perfectly. I don't think anybody who watched this video would have had any idea, or I hope not. It was always quiet enough in my room for me to get anything done that I needed, like filming videos. People very rarely walked by the cabin unless they're actually staying in one of these rooms. On the other side of the deck was the laundrette, or the laundry room, whatever you want to call it, and guests here can do their own washing if they want to. There is a paid for service too, but that can get quite pricey. The word laundrette has got to be your Britishism of the week because it just means an establishment with coin-operated washing machines and dryers for public use. That's another Britishism in there for you with the word washing. We have washing machines, I put the washing on, and then I put my washing on the washing line. We do use the word laundry, but I much prefer washing. Sometimes on a cruise, I will wash out an item or two in the cabin bathroom, and there was plenty of space for that. There was loads of space for all of our things, and there was a bin down on the lower shelf. The toilet could be a bit dramatic sometimes, but it always worked and it always flushed. The housekeeping team would even fold our toilet roll into the shape of a little boat, which I thought was just so cute, but it almost felt as though it was a shame to actually use that paper. Toilets are one thing that often do break on older cruise ships, and the fact that it had a over-the-top flush was really no problem. It always worked, and that was the main thing. Better to flush loudly and dramatically than not at all. The same could be said for the air conditioning. Was it amazing? No. Was it okay? Absolutely. Were the lights in the bathroom a little bit scary in the way that they flickered on? Kind of. Do I care? No. It all felt very comfortable, lovely, and it was very clean. I'm sure we would have still had a great cruise if we did have that cheaper cabin, but this one just really felt like a nice treat, and I don't regret the upgrade at all. Deck 2 was also where the gangway was, so it was very convenient whenever we wanted to get on or off the ship. The part in the cabin that I was most interested in though was the bath. It was tiny, really tiny, but it didn't matter. I couldn't even sit and put my legs straight. I had to sit cross-legged while I was in the bath, but I didn't care at all. It was amazing. It is just such a strange but fun idea to be having a bath on a cruise ship. You're sat in the middle of the ocean floating in a bath full of water on a ship. That blows my mind. I did have a bath once on a cruise ship before in the most amazing, expensive suite that I have ever stayed in. My bath actually had a view, if you can believe it, a bath with a view, and that was on Norwegian Spirit, which is even older than Borealis. To find out what that was like and why this is probably my favourite cruise ship cabin of all time, watch this video next. I'll see you there in 3, 2, 1.